Well, we all knew 82-0 wasn't going to happen. 15-0 was an incredible start, but the Cavaliers' undefeated streak to start the 2024-2025 season has officially come to an end. The Cavs losing to the Celtics tonight, 120-117 in their second game of the Emirates NBA Cup. And before we bring on G. Bush and maybe Jason Lloyd and some other people to give you their thoughts on what we saw tonight from the shorthanded Cavaliers, who were playing without Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, Karis LeVert, and who was the fourth? Who am I missing? Okoro, Wade, LeVert, Strus. I don't know. They're missing four role players. Dean, I'm drawing a blank now. Regardless, they were close, but close only counts in hand grenades and horseshoes. And at the end of the day, the Cavs had a valiant second half comeback. They made some critical errors early. Darius Garland played maybe his worst game ever. Seriously, he was atrocious tonight. And it's a shame that it came on this national stage, because the first 15 games of the season had been a shining comeback, a road of redemption for Darius Garland. He had played incredible, but tonight, for all the goodwill he had built up, for as well as he had played throughout the first 15 games of the season, it all came crashing back down to earth tonight. Luckily, you have to hope this is a one-game anomaly, not a reversion to last year or the year before. But the reality was tonight, Darius Garland brutally murdered the Cavs' chances of winning. His stat line, and I am not making this up, he was 3 of 21 from the floor. I'll say that one more time. He was 3 of 21 from the floor. He was 0 for 6 from 3. He did have 7 assists and a steal, but he did turn the ball over twice. He was -9 in 31 minutes of action, and he scored 8 points. 3 of 21. In the fourth quarter, the Cavs went away from Evan Mobley, and part of the reason they had made a furious second-half comeback in that third quarter was they started featuring and running offense through number 4. And I think of all the things Kenny Atkinson has done this season, and he has done a ton of incredible things, we saw his first real misstep today. And it's one game, nothing to panic about, but I thought the misstep was the fourth quarter. The offense should have been ran almost exclusively through Mobley and let Donovan Mitchell play off of him. Instead, Darius came back in the game, and Darius tried to take over, shoot himself out of it. And to his credit, the way he's played in the clutch this season has garnered the ability to do that. We talked about it, I believe, on Friday and then again yesterday. But Darius's clutch numbers this season have been the best in the NBA. Seriously, the single best clutch player in the National Basketball Association this season. So, yeah, he gets a little bit more leeway, but he was atrocious tonight. And when you don't have it, sometimes you have to just have that recognition in your own game that it's just not my night. And if it's not my night, then I have to let someone else take us home. And that's what's been beautiful about the Cavs thus far this season. And the 15-0 streak, it wasn't just Donovan, or it wasn't just Darius or Evan who was saying in crunch time moments, it's got to be me. No, they were playing through the hot hand. And the hot hand tonight was not Darius Garland, but he kept trying to force it, and that was a critical error. In the first half, I got a ton of tweets saying, where's the ball movement? Where's the motion offense? Where's the passing? Where's the cutting that we had seen from this Cavaliers team all throughout the first 3.5 weeks of the season that helped us get to 15-0? Why isn't it happening against Boston? And I'll tell you why. And it's another bit of an error on the Cavs, but it's also kudos to the Celtics, who proved once again that they're the defending NBA champs. And if you're going to beat the NBA champs at their home court, you got to bring your A game. And I would say the Cavs brought a C+ game. Maybe a B-, but it's more in the C range. When you get outscored from the three-point line by 36 points, I have a hard time giving you anything higher than a C+. But back to the offensive shortcomings in the first half. What Boston does defensively, and why Boston is the reigning champion, why they are one of the better defensive teams in the NBA, and why they have been one of the better defensive teams in the NBA over the last few seasons, is they simply switch everything. They have Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford. And when those guys are out there, and even you could throw Peyton Pritchard and some of their bench guys in, they are perfectly comfortable switching every screen, until the shot clock runs down. You get out of your offensive motion, then you have to go one-on-one. And when you go one-on-one time after time after time, they're going to run you off the three-point line and force you to take tough twos. And when you're taking tough twos over 6'6", 6'7", 6'9", 6'4", and 6'5", those become very difficult shots. And in the first half alone, the Cavs had taken 10 mid-range jump shots, mid-range offensive attempts. They weren't all jump shots. There was a floater or two in there, which is more than they average per game all season, which goes to show you they were playing right into what Boston wants you to do from an offensive standpoint. They were playing right into Boston's hands. Now, how do you beat that? Well, sometimes you have to make some of those shots and force Boston to change what they're doing because they're so good at doing it. And they have so many versatile guys that can guard Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell or Jared Allen and Darius Garland. That's what makes this team kind of special. And that's why they won 60-plus regular season games last year. That's why they essentially coasted through the playoffs. And when they need to turn it on defensively, they have that extra notch they could turn on, and it's really difficult to score against. But I was a little disappointed the Cavs didn't try and run some more stuff knowing that's what Boston was going to do, because that's what they do. But that's what Boston does. So I was a little disappointed we didn't see the Cavs try and stick to their offensive philosophies and principles early on in this contest more than they did. I thought they played into Boston's hand. And when you do that and you're not making shots, and some of the shots Darius and Donovan missed in the first half are shots they had made previously this season at a pretty high clip. So I don't think the shot selection was horrific. The shot execution and making was horrific, but the process was just okay. And just okay isn't going to beat the Boston Celtics. Just okay is not going to dethrone the champs on their home court where they're going to get a favorable whistle. And I didn't think the refs were terrible, but they certainly weren't calling the game in Cleveland's favor. Cleveland, I think, only took 15 free throws when it's all said and done. At the end of the day, the Cavs lost this game because in the first half, Boston shot 14 of 22 from three. And because Darius Garland, and it's never fair to single out one player, but I think tonight it's pretty applicable, was giving Boston opportunities to score at will. And on the other end of the court, couldn't buy a bucket. And Darius's plus minus at the end of the day, like I said, was only a -9. Jared Allen's was a -16. Mitchell's was a -14. Merrill's was a -10. So all the starters were in the minus. And of course, because that's how it would work, Garland had the second best plus minus of the starters, despite the fact he was by far the worst of them. Yeah, it's a bummer because I thought the Cavs showed some resiliency in the second half. I thought they fought back and made it a game when they could have easily folded, but they didn't. And I think that shows some promise moving forward for a team that, faced a team that is in the same caliber of basketball that they are. And you're not going to win every game. You're not going to go 82-0. And obviously this is disappointing. You wanted to go 16-0 and become just the second team to ever do that in the history of the league. You want to go 24-0, 25-0, break the record. We knew it was unrealistic, and we knew it wasn't going to go 82-0, but this was a game that down the stretch they had a chance to win, and Boston just made an extra play or two. But the Cavs lost this game in the first half, not the second half. They lost this game in the first half, and then in the second half, I thought they could have made some adjustments to give themselves a better chance down the stretch, especially from an offensive standpoint, in terms of how they wanted to close the game offensively. I didn't necessarily love their approach, but what are you going to do? You win some, you lose some. The Cavs lost tonight. They are 15-1. They got the Pelicans tomorrow, and we're going to bring in G. Bush now to give us his thoughts on the contest today. G. Bush, what's up, my guy?
What's up, man? What's up, man?
What do you think of the Cavs' performance tonight, falling to the Celtics by 3 points in Boston?
Well, first of all, they should have been happy to be in the game. I didn't think they in the beginning of the game they did a good enough job of adhering to the scout report when you're shooting over 50 some odd threes. That was the scout report coming to the game. The Celtics was going to let it rain, and they did it. I mean, everybody. And I think they had 6 or 7 people that hit over 3 threes in the game, and that should have been out of here from the get-go. Like, they should have been finished with that. But I'll give them credit, though. They battled back. That showed me a little something. They battled back. They got the game down within 2 a few times. But you know how it is. when you waste a lot of energy trying to battle back from those type deficits, you're going to be in trouble a little bit. Like, you got to have some things go right for you. I don't think that the things went right for them. They had a couple mismatches that I think the Celtics just wore out. Jaylen Brown at the end was victimizing George Niang. It was, they was getting to the rack with that. I think Tatum just, every time they made a step, Tatum kept them in the game. And they had some back-breaking jumpers by Derek White and some of the other guys as well. But I'll say, listen, it's just one game. I think when we look at it, I think, most people will come away saying that it's the Darius Garland effect. He had 8 points tonight, 6 for most of the night. Had a terrible shooting night. What is he, 3 or something? 3 of
21.
3 of 21. Missed a lot of layups at the basket. And look, you can't beat the Celtics. And the great thing about this is we learned a lot about what it is. We won 15 games in a row, but if you want to beat the Celtics, there's some things you're going to have to clean up. You're going to have all hands on deck, and you're going to have your stars play like stars and not have a horrible shooting night. But there were some good things. I thought Evan Mobley played well, really well. I love the way Evan Mobley played. I tweeted this out. He was a monster defensively. Some of the blocks and recoveries he had in the first half was just ridiculous, McNuggets. And then Donovan Mitchell showed up. So all in all, I didn't come away from this game. I didn't catch the first few minutes, but I didn't come away like feeling like it's doom and gloom or anything. It's it's a situation where you lost. You know what it is when you go play the Celtics, right?
You gave up 22 threes to a team playing on their home court. That's also a really good defensive team. The fact that Cavs made it competitive at the end, I think, is a testament. You can look at it in two different ways, G. And it's one game. And even if the Cavs had won tonight, I would come on the show and tell everyone, let's not overreact. It's one game. They've played 16 games this season. That's it. And because they lost, I'm going to tell you guys, don't overreact to one loss. They're 15-1. Mm-hmm. Like, at the end of the day, it's one game. But you can look at this in two different ways, G. One, they played a very poor defensive first half.
Yeah.
Boston's going to chuck threes. They lead the league in three-point attempts per game. They're shooting over 50 threes per game. And in the first half, the Cavs allowed Boston to go 14 from 22 from 3. And a lot of those were open looks. Some teams are going to get hot. And on certain nights, guys are going to make shots. They're going to get hot. They're going to make shots. There's only so much you can do against good offensive teams. We talked about it today on UCSS. You keep passing the ball around, you're going to get a good look. And the Celtics are an unselfish basketball team that know how to turn a good look into a great look by making an extra pass. But I thought the Cavs did a bad job of running the Celtics off the three-point line. They were too complacent in allowing the Celtics to set their feet and fire a good look. And when they start making threes at that clip, you better bust your ass to get them off that three-point line. And I didn't think the effort defensively was there enough in the first half. Now, in the second half, G, and I'll kind of reiterate what I said a second ago, they showed a lot of resilience. You give up 14 threes in the first half. You get punched in the face by Boston in Boston. That crowd is crazy. I've been there many times before. It's easy to just, hey, we're 15-1 now. Let's get ready for tomorrow. We got a game against New Orleans tomorrow night back at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Instead, they ramped up the intensity.
Yep.
From a defensive standpoint, yes, Boston missed some shots. They cooled down. They weren't going to shoot 14 from 22, copy and paste in the second half. But the Cavs did a much better job making them work for looks, work for threes. And even if they did get open threes, it was coming off 3-4 rotations. And in those shots, although the same considered quality, become a little more difficult after guys are passing, cutting, relocating, and then shooting. I liked offensively what the Cavs did in the third quarter. They played through Evan Mobley, G. He had 10 points in the third quarter. He had one shot in the first 11 minutes of the fourth. I did not like that whatsoever. I said that's the first time I could look at what they've done offensively and potentially question, Kenny, what were you doing? Like, how do you not run more offense through Darius Garland? We talked about earlier, Boston switches everything, G. And that kind of baits you into going one-on-one, and they want you to do that. I thought the Cavs played into Boston, played into what they wanted the Cavs to do in the first half. In the second half, in that third quarter with Mobley, they said, if you're going to switch, we're going to put Evan on the block and make you guard a 7-footer with someone smaller. And Evan made him pay, and they went away from that in the fourth quarter, and that's kind of my qualm. So my two big takeaways are three. One, great resilience. You lost to a good team on the road. It happens. Good resilience. Two, Darius Garland played like poop tonight. There's no other way to explain it. It may be his worst game ever. And number three, You have an offensive adjustment in the second half. I think you could have tweaked. You have a defensive philosophy, not running guys off in the first half that can be improved. But all in all, they're 15-1, G, and they played a competitive game tonight against a really good basketball team. And instead of quitting and instead of just throwing in the towel, they found a way to fight back and make it interesting.
Let me throw this out at you too. Now I'm gonna take some nice takeaways from this. Hey,
and they were missing 4 guys, by the way, which also doesn't help.
If Porter gonna hit threes,
yeah,
he's gonna find himself on the court a lot more. We were texting back and forth.
Real quick on Porter. So Okoro didn't play tonight, and I don't know if anyone else picked up on this. Although Craig Porter's like 5'10", I know he's listed at 6'1". G, we've met him.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't 6'1". I'll tell you that. If he's 6'1", I'm 6 foot. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
You see me every day at 6 foot. They use Craig Porter Jr. in the Isaac Okoro screener role.
Yeah.
Like they literally said, CPJ, you're doing exactly what he didn't bring the ball up.
No.
He played the Okoro role, and guess what? I thought he did a terrific job at it. I thought Craig played an awesome game tonight, and it was interesting to see how, despite the fact they are completely different body types, they have completely different games, how interchangeable that role is. Because a guard screener that then makes whoever they're playing that night defensively, you're not used to having those communications. Guard to guards don't usually switch pick and rolls. But when you have Isaac or Craig Porter Jr., it's just a nice little wrinkle the Cavs have in their back pocket. I really did think Craig Porter Jr. played well. If he's going to hit 3 threes, G, like we were texting about, he going to play every night.
He going to get some touches. I think the more he plays, I think he'll get more. I think he was a little uncomfortable about what he wanted to do when he got to the rim, whether it was finishing, whether he wants to float or he wants to pass the ball or lob it. I think he was a little indecisive, but the more he played, I thought, and the cool thing about it is he wasn't hesitant. He hit a big time 3 at the top of the key. And I said, oh, okay, you can just go pull up with impunity. Like I like this aggressiveness. I like that a lot. I thought George Niang offensively did some decent things. It was just a mismatch. I think they want Jared Allen was off the court a lot of times because they needed to spray the floor and wanted to get some guys some shooting. And George Niang is technically a shooter like that. I thought he did some good stuff. I thought he wasn't a complete liability defensively. I just think overall, like you said, the biggest thing to take away was the closeouts was a little lazy. Yeah. Them closeouts in the first half was on them 3-point shooters. You can't let Pritchard and Hauser and especially Al Horford. Al Horford is not going to – when I found out he only had 5 free throws or 3 free throws the whole year, that's what he wants to do. He want to post up outside. That's his game. Yeah, and I tweeted he's been in the league for 18 years, G. He's one of the longest tenured players in the NBA, and he's still good. But, like, the way he plays, it reminds me of, like, 74 guys I've met at the YMCA. And he just plays, and he's doing it at 6'10", making threes at a crazy level. And you're always like, hey, if Al Horford shoots a 3 off rotation, that's a good defensive possession. But then he makes it, and then I get pissed off. And I don't know why. I'm so mad. Every time he makes it, I'm pissed because a dude on Twitter said, I know this isn't factual, but I don't remember ever seeing Al Horford miss any threes. No, it's incredible. He's awesome. And give the Celtics credit, G. The Cavs didn't lose this game. The Celtics won tonight. Like Darius handed them some stuff for sure. But the Celtics are a really good basketball team, and they proved they can turn it on. Big picture, though, the Cavs proved tonight what we said on the show today. There's no fluke to the 15-0. No, it's legit. And I tweeted this out, G. I thought they played a C-plus game tonight and went toe-to-toe with the Celtics. And some guys played better than a C-plus. Darius played much lower than a C-plus. So I think all out, it averages to right around a C-plus, B-minus. And on the road in Boston, you took a really, 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 really talented Celtics team to the wire. Now, the one thing I will say, looking ahead, the Celtics are a bad matchup for Cleveland. And they're a bad matchup for everybody. Like, it's not Cleveland specific. It's everybody. I was going to ask you that. That's where I was going next. They have the size, the length, and the wings that's really, really, really tough to deal with. And from a defensive standpoint, if you're Cleveland, even when you put out your best defensive lineups out there, the Celtics just have the personnel, right, to get a good look almost whenever they want. And when they needed a good shot tonight,
they can ISO and they could pick and choose which matchup they want to go to. And at the end of the game, they went and attacked George Niang time after time. But he was in the game because they couldn't play Jared Allen because he needed more shooting. So it's kind of a pick your battle. The Celtics don't have that because in their best five, which when Porzingis is healthy, is Derek White, Drew Holiday, Tatum, Brown, Porzingis. Who you picking to attack? And is there a bad, they're a really tough matchup for a reason. And if you take anything away from tonight other than the Cavs being legit, is that the Cavs, we like their depth. And we'll talk about the guys who missed and how they would have impacted the game if they were healthy tonight, G, in one sec. Do they have a guy who in that situation you feel confident can be on the floor? Because I don't think it could be George Niang. But do you feel confident it could be Dean Wade or Isaac Okoro or LeVert or someone else to still give you the requisite spacing, but also not be a liability on defense? And I don't know the answer right now, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I think today showed you how much the length of Dean Wade is missed when you got a guy that's 6'9", 6'10", that can shoot, a good defender. I think your versatility at Karis LeVert, somebody, I think a little bit, the Celtics, for the first time this year, got the Cavs to play stagnant in the first half. I thought the ball movement was a little slow. They weren't rotated in as much. And so when I looked at it, and the Celtics are a great defensive team. They did a good job of limiting threes and the ability for the Cavs to shoot that many threes. And they basically played 3 for 2. I was going to ask you about this, and this is kind of a big picture thing, because I think to me, the Cavs will be, Cavs and Celtics will be 1-2, whatever it goes in the Eastern Conference. Now we start to look at matchups, right? And for the Cavs, they have a problem because it's even though they have depth, they have a bad matchup. Drew Holiday is physical. Derek White is a big guard. You know what Tatum and Brown are able to do, and it's like Darius Garland has to work hard to get his shots.
Yeah,
he has to work hard to get his shots. It looks like. So my thing is this just a bad matchup in terms of what Kenny Atkinson is going to have to do? I kind of compare it to like when Golden State and Cleveland playing in the finals, and it was just a bad matchup for Kevin Love. It was a bad matchup. Like, he couldn't do nothing with Draymond. They were spacing him out, and they eventually had to say, listen, we might have to bring you off the bench because we got Tristan. We should go play small and go with LeBron. Is that something that you look at where, how are they going to combat that length? And does Kenny have it in his toolbox to say, I got to get unorthodox against these dudes?
I don't think you necessarily have to get unorthodox. We said earlier, Darius played terrible. Like, it is what it is. Darius did not have a good basketball game tonight. Offensively, he missed everything, G. But he made a lot of those shots in the first 15 games. Mm-hmm. And Darius is a guy that if he makes his first couple shots, then you feel real good about him throughout the rest of the game. And, I didn't like the fact he tried to shoot himself out of a slump in crucial moments. I think at that point of the game, you have to recognize it's just not my night unless I'm wide open and the ball gets swung to me. Then let's shoot. I don't need to be the facilitator and the creator in that moment. So I didn't like how he played in that regard, but I don't know. I mean, he made he was shooting like 70% on mid-range shots before tonight and then was 0 of 7.
Yeah.
He missed some shots.
One game. He's Eastern Conference Player of the Week, wasn't he?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Franz Wagner, not the hated one, but the other one won last week. But to your point, G, in the first half, Boston switches everything, right? And they do that intentionally because they eventually want the shot clock to run down, the offense to look up, see 7 on the shot clock, and sometimes it's in Donovan's hands, and then sometimes it might be in Jared Allen's hands. And you know what? At 7 on the shot clock, you're going one-on-one because that's about all you can do with 7 on the shot clock. And they feel confident that whoever's guarding the ball at that point, because the guys in the court are usually Derek White, who's made an all-NBA defensive team, Drew Holiday, who's made an all-NBA defensive team, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, we're both 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", long and athletic, and Porzingis or Horford, who they feel pretty good about. It's a luxury that most teams don't have, G. And I thought the Cavs played into the Celtics' hands in that regard, and that was a little disappointing. G, we got Jason Lloyd ready to join us in a sec, so give me your final thoughts, and we'll hear from you tomorrow on the flagship show.
Listen, good run, 15-0. They made history. They did something unique. Now it's all about putting together some other games, right? See what you can do. Guys make adjustments. Let's see if you can put another run together, put stacks and wins or whatever the case may be. But this isn't a game where you're gonna jump up and down and say the Cavs are doom and gloom and they're done. Nah, like it was a good game. I am looking for the matchup now with the Celtics and I'm actually glad that you do get an L in some respects, because guess what? Now we're going to see what you made of. Now we're going to see how you react to that. Actually, I'll be at the Pelicans game tomorrow, so we'll see what's going on.
Awesome. That's G. Bush. You can see him tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. G, thanks for joining us tonight.
All right, have a good night.
And with that, we're going to say bye to G and say what's up to Jason Lloyd. Jason, 15-1. I saw your tweet, 81-1 coming. Before we dive into some specifics, and we're going to wrap at 10 o'clock no matter what. So 10 o'clock, hard out here, Jason. Overall thoughts on the game here from the Cavs as they fall to the Celtics 120-117.
I thought it was over. Texted you guys, said, whatever. Bad game. Didn't make it. It's a make or miss league. They didn't make shots, and Boston did. Thought they showed a ton of heart to come back. For Boston to outshoot them from the 3-point line the way that they did, and the Cavs still to make it a one-possession game in the fourth quarter is nutty, especially with all the guys that were losing. The only thing I take from this is what we already knew. This team's legit. Like, you and I have been telling people that for weeks, really since the Warriors game. I'll go back to the Warriors game. That stamped it for me that this is real. This is sustainable. You're not going to shoot like that every night. You're going to have nights like this. Darius killed him tonight. It happens. I didn't like some of his shot selection. I thought he attacked the wrong guys, blew a ton of bunnies. Didn't really have a ton of turnovers. I haven't seen the final box.
He had like 2 turnovers.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of missed shots and shots that got blocked that led to open fast breaks.
Yes.
He played bad tonight. I don't know how else to say. He played bad.
No, he did. And Donovan didn't shoot it well for 3 quarters or so. Seemed to get hot a little bit in the fourth.
Yeah, and they still 13-29.
Yeah. And they still hung around. So, I think the loss of Okoro really hurt them in this game as a big-bodied wing who can guard. Listen, Boston's really good with the way Boston switches. This is what they do. Ty Lue used to talk about this all the time. When you switch everything defensively, it makes the ball stick. It slows down ball movement. And we saw that tonight where the Cavs really couldn't get into their actions. We talked about drive, kick, swing. There was none of that. There was very little side-to-side movement. It was a lot of one-on-one. It was a lot of isolation. It was a lot of dribble shot. And that's not what you want. But Boston sort of forces you to play that way sometimes. And, when they're shooting like they are in the first half, nobody's going to beat that team. So they cooled a little bit in the second half just because you can't possibly, I don't think, shoot like that. Certainly over a 7-game series, you can't shoot like that. They got hot. They shot it well, man. They're defending champs for a reason.
Yeah, a lot of the same takeaways. I thought it was an impressive second half, disappointing first half. They played right into what Boston wanted you to do from an offensive standpoint. Like, they switch, and then they want you to take mid-range jump shots. They run you off the 3-point line. The Cavs came into tonight. I was looking up. They averaged 37.1 3-point attempts per game. Tonight they finished with 29, so they were 8 below their season average. Against a team that takes as many threes as Boston does, they led the league. They still lead the league with over 50 3-point attempts per game. Tonight, they shot 41, so 10 below, but they made an incredible rate. They were making so many of them that they just didn't take a ton because they weren't getting a ton of offensive rebounds. And I just thought the Cavs, they played into what Boston wanted to do. And when you play a team that's the defending champions, that brings back the entire roster, that's still really good in their home court with the NBA Cup, and say it matters, it doesn't matter, whatever. They lost their first game. They needed to win this to have any chance of advancing. You got to bring your A game. And I thought the Cavs brought a C+ game. And that was kind of the overall takeaway. Darius, not very good. Missing Okoro, missing Wade, missing LeVert certainly doesn't help. Like, you could clearly tell they're missing some of the horses, and we talked about their depth being their biggest advantage, really.
But they had their guys. Like, they had all their main guys. And
Boston was missing Porzingis too. Like, it wasn't like Boston had their full arsenal, but they hung tough, Jason. At the end of the day, they hung tough with a really good basketball team, despite having a piss poor first half.
Yeah, I'm not blaming the loss on if only they had Isaac Okoro. I'm just saying there were moments certainly where he could have helped them. I thought I know Karras is having a great year, and for as much as we've sort of dogged on Isaac at times, I thought that his loss was probably the most painful on a night like this when you just need a big body to go against. Who would you rather have on the defensive end, Isaac Okoro or Sam Merrill?
Oh, Okoro, and late in the game, I texted this in the group chat, but George Niang was in the game late because they needed spacing and they didn't feel comfortable with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. And Jason, we have said this, and I'm going to tap ourselves on the back. The 15-0 start's incredible, and Jared and Evan have looked incredible together at times. But late in the game tonight, Kenny needed more spacing and didn't feel like he could play two bigs.
Yeah.
That is when Isaac would be in the game, and I feel a lot better about Isaac trying to stay in front of Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown in a one-on-one late game situation than George Niang is. And had Isaac been available, I'm pretty confident George isn't the one in there at that makeshift 4 in those final possessions, especially on the defensive end.
No, that's a good call. That's fair. I said it's November. When we get to May, I would have said this even if the Cavs wanted to go to 16-0. Everybody'd be losing their minds, and I'd still say no one's going to be talking about this game in May. It's great that they won, keep the streak alive, all that stuff, but no one's going to remember this game in May. It's going to be a distant memory by the time you get there. But tonight just showed that this team's legit and they can hang with anybody. And I think it's very much. Philly is totally unraveling. I'm not surprised by that. Milwaukee looks like they're a mess. New York can still pull it together. No one's outside of Boston and Cleveland. No one's running away from the pack. So at this point, it looks like a 2-horse race really all year long.
Yeah, Philly's played 13 games and they're 12 games back at first place. So
that's unbelievable.
Just put it that way. I do think I mentioned this on UCSS today. The 1 seed I think is really important for the Cavs this year. Because if they happen to get to a Game 7 with Boston, I would feel so much better about Cleveland's chances down the street at Rocket Mortgage as opposed to in the TD Garden. And head-to-head is one of the first tiebreaker things they go to. So I don't want to say this means nothing because it's a November game, but it is the first of 4 meetings between the two teams. It does have a little higher weighted value just because I think these will be the two teams battling for that top spot. And I think it means more to Cleveland than it does to Boston to have the 1 seed. They just haven't been to the same playoff battles that a team like Boston has. But this team could have quit at the end of the first half. I thought they fought back. And Jason, I'm curious. We'll get your last thought on this, then we'll wrap up. The third quarter, when they made their comeback, they ran their offense through Evan Mobley. And they started attacking these Boston switches by going to their big mismatch, which is the 7-foot developing unicorn who now feels confident back to the basket to punish small defenders. In the fourth quarter, he got 1 field goal attempt in the first 11 minutes of the quarter. Didn't touch the ball. Now, Donovan came back and started making shots. I don't want to say they went hero ball, but a lot of the good things they did in the third quarter without Darius and Donovan on the court kind of evaporated when those two came back. Darius obviously couldn't buy a bucket, but it's the first time I could look at an offensive scheme that the Cavs kind of threw out there, whether it was Kenny or the players who was the catalyst, and said, I don't really like that. I thought they should have continued to run the offense through Evan Mobley.
Yeah, Donovan came back with, I think, 7 minutes left, 6:55, 7, somewhere in there. I actually thought they might hold him out a minute or two longer, but they got him right back out there. And he did dominate the ball a little bit after that. But listen, without Porzingis, Boston has no answer for Evan Mobley. He proved that last spring, and they proved it again tonight. And it's just fun to watch this kid continue to develop. You can see his confidence growing. You can see him feeling himself a little bit out there, which is everything this team's been waiting on.
Cavs had their worst 3-point shooting night of the year. The Celtics had one of their best, and it ended up being a 3-point game that came down to the wire. Yeah. If I had told you before the game, and this is the last thing that I'll read, we got 3 super chats. If I had told you before the game Boston was going to shoot the lights out from 3, make 14 in the first half, make 22 for the game, the Cavs would only make 10. So the Cavs would lose the 3-point battle by 36 points. Jason, you'd say the final score was what?
128, 101, 101, 103. 130, 99, somewhere in there. Yeah.
It is a testament to Cavs keeping it close. But as I said, to start the show, I'll say to close the show. Close only counts and hand grenades and horseshoes.
Yep.
Tonight they were playing basketball. So you have to give a little more of that. We got 3 super chats to read. Amari McGee says, not mad at the loss, but I felt Evan was the key. And then Stephen Key is trolling in the chat, but he paid. So he said, let's go Celtics in 5. So we appreciate your money.
That's fine.
Great game. Hey, rematch in 2 weeks, December 1st. They play again here in Cleveland. Gives both teams a little bit. Oh, and one other thing, by the way. Cavs had their worst three-point shooting night. They weren't closing out threes in the first half. They've played the most games in the league. They haven't had back-to-back days off yet. The Celtics had 2 days off since their last game, and they had 2 days off before their previous game. So they came in well rested. The Cavs a little more tired. I think you could see the difference in legs. And now the Cavs, after tomorrow night, get 3 days off and then 2 days off. So the rest will start to equal out.
Didn't you say the other day they haven't had a practice since the season started?
Yeah, they haven't had a full practice. They've played every other day or had a back-to-back. They have not had 2 days off between a game since the season started.
That's crazy. And Kenny's talked about he's seen things prior to tonight. He's seen things that, like, we got to get in practice and clean that up. We got to get on the practice court and clean that up. And they just haven't had time to do that. Now, hopefully, after tomorrow, take the day off on Thursday and then get a little bit of time here.
Jason, appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate G. Bush for tuning in. We had 1,000 people in here tonight on a Tuesday night for a Cavs game. That is a new non-playoff record. So we appreciate you guys. The Cavs are 15-1, and we will break it down tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, start at 11. For Jason, for G, I'm McNuggets. See you tomorrow. Peace.